Well, you can go ahead and start. I guess I can introduce myself, though, before you get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining Visual Sound this afternoon for our uh, almost daily, I guess, web conferences 3 times a week now. Today's conference is about using Zoom for synchronous learning in your school. Before we get started, though, we do ask if you could in the chat enter your email address. That will allow us to follow up with additional material from the class, kinds of helps us take attendance of who came in. So we do appreciate that if you can enter your email into the chat. Certainly, as we go through this, if you have any questions, we will monitor that chat for questions as well. I know Corey will open things up at the end for an open Q&A session. And in addition to that, she's available from 2:30 to 3:30 this afternoon for her Ask Her Anything hours for any follow-up information that you would like. So with that, I will turn it over to Corey. Again, thank you all for joining us, and I hope you find the information useful. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andy. One thing Andy did not mention is this is being recorded. So after the session is over, I will be uploading the video to YouTube, and there's a list of the archive of all the sessions. So if you miss anything or you want to go back and look at previous sessions, you are able to do that. I am going to put the link in the chat. It is bit.ly/visualsound031. This is the resource for all of the sessions that we have done. It has the YouTube videos, it has documents that you might find useful, all different stuff. Whoever that person is who has that bit of an echo in their microphone, I am muting you. If people do have questions, though, please feel free to come off of mute to ask your questions, or you can just type them in the chat box. Andy and I will both be monitoring the chat box as we go along. So today's session is called Using Zoom for Synchronous Learning. And basically what we're going to be doing is looking at Zoom, how to use it with your students, and what the different settings and features are that you might find useful. So first of all, if you can't see my screen right now, if you select the little icon of the people, you will notice that my name is listed twice. It says Corey Freed, and then it says Corey Freed Presentation. The presentation is the computer screen, so that way you can see what I am showing. Even though we're currently in Google Meet, I am going to be taking you into Zoom to show you the features of Zoom. So the first thing to know about Zoom is there are a couple of different options. Depending on your school, you might have the EDU license, you might have a personal license that your school is recommending that you use. As you can see, during this coronavirus craziness, they have temporarily lifted the limits for school domains. So if you are logged in with a personal account that is, for example, an email address at Gmail, you're going to still have that 40-minute limit. But if you are logged in with a school district email address, that limit of 40 minutes has been waived, and you can keep the call going longer than that. If you have the EDU accounts, that means that you do have additional functions for the safety of your students, such as FERPA and HIPAA compliance. It integrates with your LMSs, all of those type of features. So again, you might have either one of these type of accounts. You might have the personal account, or you might have the EDU account. You would have to ask your school's IT department which one you're using. So when you use Zoom, you would probably start on the Zoom website, which is zoom.us. However, once you try to enter a chat, it is going to prompt you to download the program to your computer or your phone. So we're going to look at both the Zoom website and the Zoom program, because a lot of the settings are done on the website, but the actual phone calls will be done on the Zoom application. So this is what the Zoom application looks like. And as you can see, it has a calendar and it has 4 icons: the new meeting icon, a join meeting icon, scheduling, and sharing your screen. So you can use all of these features to very quickly start a phone call with your class or get a link to give to your students. When you go to schedule an appointment, you will see that it has the topic, the date, the duration, and then it has this option here that says meeting ID, and it says generate automatically or personal meeting ID. The personal meeting ID is kind of like your phone number for Zoom. So if you were to set a personal meeting ID, every time your students come in, they would use the exact same link and hopefully the same password. But that way, only the people who have that information can get in, but you don't have to create a new one every single day. You can just keep reusing the same lesson or the same link. The other options are you going to automatically turn your videos on, or are you going to let the participants turn them on their own choice? Again, the audio is another option. I recommend leaving it as telephone and computer audio. This means that your participants can choose what's going to work best for them. Some people don't have the best audio on their computer, so even if they're using the webcam of the computer, they might still want to do the sound through a telephone. If you have very slow internet connection, this is also a function that would help kind of prevent that buffering, because not as much signal is going to go through the internet. Your audio would come through a telephone. The last thing is setting the calendar. You can choose if you want it to go to Outlook or Google, because it can actually look at your calendar to make sure you're free and available at the time that you're scheduling it. So one of the great features about Zoom that a lot of teachers like is the raising your hand feature. So as you can see from this screenshot, if a student options to hit raise hand while in the chat, what happens is you as the teacher will get a notification that someone's hand was raised, and you can kind of know, hey, stop talking, answer a question, or hey, so-and-so wants to speak. If you get that little pop-up really quick and you see it pop up but you didn't see whose name it was, you can go to your participant list and you will see an icon of a hand. This is also a really good feature in the classroom if you want to take a really quick poll. You could say something like, raise your hand if you read a book today. And anyone who hits the raise your hand button, the little hand icon will pop up on their participant list, and you would be able to see how many people did that. We will also talk about the polling feature in a second, because that is something you'd want to set up in advance, but you can ask multiple choice questions to your audience as well. So the breakout rooms is another feature that teachers really like. And the point of the breakout room is that, think about when you're in your classroom, you have your small groups, and you might send some kids to the back corner and some kids to the front of the room, and maybe a couple kids out into the hallway. And the different groups don't actually like have to listen to each other talk, but you as the teacher can walk around and see what each group is doing. That is kind of what the breakout rooms does. The participants will go off into smaller Zoom rooms, so that way there's not 5 conversations going on at once over the same microphone and speaker. But you as the teacher can pop in between the rooms to hear what all your students are talking about. Now, you can actually, depending on which account of Zoom you have, you can create these breakout rooms for up to 200 people. I believe the limit per room is about 50. I could be wrong about that limit though, but you would be able to set the number of rooms you want your group to break out into, and then you could choose to either manually assign the students to a specific room, or automatically, if you do automatically, it's going to just randomly generate small groups. So now we're going to come out of the slideshow and we're going to go into Zoom itself, because I want to show you some of the settings on Zoom. And it was just a lot of stuff to take screenshots of to put into a slideshow. It is better to see it in action. So when you log into Zoom, you will see on the left, you will have your profile, meetings, webinars, recordings, settings, profile, and reports. Webinars is a higher level feature, so it might not be available on your account type. Meetings will be available to both free and education accounts. But what I wanted to start in is the settings, because the settings is where you can set the defaults for calls that you create. So you'll notice again the audio type, you have the choice between telephone, computer, telephone only, or computer only. But this is the feature that I want to tell you as a teacher you want turned off. Join before the host. If this toggle switch is turned on, that means that your students can enter the Zoom room without you. You don't always want that to happen, because you want to, as the teacher, you want to be aware of what's going on. So I recommend making sure that setting is turned off. The other features that I recommend is require a password when scheduling a new meeting. There has been a major issue going on recently, I'm sure you've seen it in the news, where people are just randomly joining a Zoom call, and they're just joining to be annoying, to be harassing, all of that type of stuff. So by requiring a password to enter the room, you reduce the risk of random people finding your link and coming in. Again, it's just a toggle switch, so you can turn it on or turn it off. The last feature I recommend is mute participants upon entry. When you have people come into the room, as you heard in our chat today, people who were coming in, some of them have a bit of a fuzziness to their microphones. Some of them have the TV playing in the black background, all different types of sound. So by muting the participants as they enter, you don't have to worry about something distracting when someone comes into the meeting. If the person wants to talk, they can unmute themselves to talk. Another really cool thing about Zoom is they have a temporary unmute. So you can let all your students know, all they have to do is hold the spacebar down when they're talking, and that will unmute them temporarily, kind of like a walkie-talkie. Hold the spacebar down, your microphone is on. Let go of the spacebar, your microphone is muted. So that is a really good feature to let your students know about when you're in Zoom. The co-host feature. When you are the teacher in a meeting, you are the host. You are the one who can mute people, unmute people, share your screen, see the hands being raised, all of that stuff. If you have a co-teacher or you want a student to be in charge of hand raising, maybe your students are presenting to each other, you can set them as co-hosts, which would allow you to let them have the same ability to see the hand raising. The other feature, the polling that we mentioned, you do have to have that turned on in your settings in order to use it in your calls. So now we're going to look at the meetings, and this is where you can actually schedule a meeting. So you would come over to meetings and click schedule a new meeting. And this is all in the website. So again, the website and the app are two separate things. We're going to look at the app in a second, because anytime you actually enter a phone call, it will require you to use the app. You cannot get into the call from the web. Sometimes you can, but it is very iffy. So it is highly recommended that you download the app, and you will be prompted when you go to enter a call. So when you schedule the meeting, you set your name. You can put a description, put your date. If it's a reoccurring message, you can put reoccurring. And then as you can see, require a meeting password. It's going to randomly generate a 6-digit number. You can change that. So you can put words. If I wanted the password to be visual sound, I could start typing visual sound, but apparently it's too many characters. But you can make the password anything. So you can make it like your last name. You can make it the school's name, something your kids are going to easily remember, but not something that can just be guessed by a random person who found your link on Twitter or some other method of finding a link to a Zoom call. For the meeting options, enable the waiting room is the other feature that I want to recommend, because by enabling that waiting room, your students cannot enter before you. It just kind of holds them in it's like a holding pattern. It just keeps them, and it says waiting for the host to let you in. It lets them know that they put the right username or the right link for the Zoom call, but that the call just hasn't started yet. And if you do want to assign your own groups for the breakout rooms, you can pre-assign them. So if you know it's biology 101, your second period class, and you know exactly who's going to be in what group, you could pre-assign those groups. And that way, when you click breakout, they all go directly to the right room, and you don't have to start flipping names around as your students are sitting there waiting. All right. So now we're going to look at Zoom, and you could see I set up a demo phone call for today. So I am going to start the demo call. So this way you can see inside the call. So it gives you the option to join with the computer audio. I am going to join with the computer audio, but then I am muting it because I do not want to have an echo from the team or from the Zoom and from the Google Meet. All right, so as you can see, you see your video. You also have the ability to turn the video off. But now here's the features I want to show you. If you don't see the stuff on the bottom, stretch out your window because they will appear, or click the more, because if you can't get to it here, you can click more and it will normally be hidden under there. So again, the polling, as you can see, it says add a question when you turn on the poll. So when you click add a question, it's going to let you write the question. And it opens it in the web browser. So you would just put the question and then everyone can answer it. You can add multiple questions, all of those type of things. So by adding those questions to the poll, when you have an audience, which obviously I do not because this Zoom call is just me right now, you are able to pull them out. Now, you might notice I don't have the hand raise option. That is because I am the host and the presenter. All the students where I have the poll, they would have hand raise. So it would be right there on the bottom of their screen. The breakout rooms is right here. And when I click on breakout rooms, it says how many participants are you breaking into the rooms. So if I say I want to break into four rooms, I create my room. And now here where it says assign, that's where you would list your students to the individual groups. So you can rename the groups if you wanted to call it, for example, if you had reading groups, you might have the 4 titles be the 4 books that they're reading. So that way you as the teacher, when you're flipping between the rooms, know which room you are going to. So that is the really nice thing about the breakout rooms is that you can easily create those rooms. And again, you as the teacher can go between the different rooms. Your students can only go to the room that they're assigned. Now, when you're ready to close the breakout rooms, what you can do is you can have an option that says countdown. So you can say to your students, hey, the room's going to close in 60 seconds. Set that countdown timer, and they have 60 seconds to finish up their discussion. And as soon as that timer goes off, they all get sent back to the original room. So if you were to do that method, you would see that all of your students would end up coming into the one room as a group, and then they could have that final share out that you would want to do as a class. So those are the really good features about Zoom. The last thing that I haven't shown you that yet is the screen sharing. And this is one last thing that Zoom has built in that some of the other video softwares do not. And that is the ability to share your screen. And you might notice that when I click share screen, I have an option that says whiteboard. This is the feature that a lot of teachers really like because when you share a whiteboard, it's going to literally be a whiteboard. So the screen pops up, and this is what all your students would be looking at right now. So you can add text, you can draw, you can have arrows, shapes, all of those type of things. So you can write on it. The spotlight is kind of like a little laser. So that way, if you want to say to your kids, look over here. And then it just has all the basics. If you click save, it is going to save it as a screenshot on your computer. So those are just all nice features of what you can do. As you might have noticed when you do go to the screen sharing, it has another option that says iPad, iPhone. And this is so if you don't have a touchscreen computer, you could actually sync your iPhone or your iPad directly to the Zoom call so that you have a device with a touchscreen that you could be writing on. You'll also notice that I have the options to share a screen or a window. So the advantage of this is if you share a window, you don't have to worry about your students accidentally seeing the wrong thing. So for example, if I had 2 different windows up for browsers and I had my email open in one and I had the math textbook open in the other, I could show my students the textbook without risking them accidentally seeing my email or personal private information and all of that type of stuff. So those are the advantages of the screen sharing a screen instead of a window instead of a screen is that you are limiting it to a single option. The last thing in screen sharing is if you gave your student permission to share with you, you can actually take control of their screen. And you would see that on the top of Zoom. So if I had a student go and share their screen, right here where it has all the information about sharing, when you are the host, but not the person sharing your screen, there will be another option that says take control. So if you're trying to show your student something and you're saying, click on this icon and they're like moving their mouse all around, you can take control of their mouse temporarily and move it to where you need it to go. So again, that is only the host who has the ability to do that, only when a participant is sharing the screen. When you click end the meeting, you're going to see 2 options, leave the meeting or end the meeting for all. As a teacher, you want to click End Meeting for All because that's going to kick any students out that are still in that room. So at this point, I am going to open the floor up for questions. Thank you all for coming. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat box or you can come off of mute, whichever is easier for you. How can I change my background on a Chromebook? When you say change your background on the Chromebook, are you referring to Zoom or the Chromebook itself? Just to clarify what your question is. On Zoom. Oh, you know what? You're right. I didn't actually show changing backgrounds. So let me open Zoom back up. So if you remember, I did mention that sometimes with Zoom, the reason you might do audio separate on your phone is because of the fact that the internet might not be fast enough. I'm going to be very honest with you right now. My internet does not like the virtual backgrounds, but I will show you how to do it. Right here where you have your stop video option, you see how there is an arrow? When you click on that arrow, you'll see an option that says choose a virtual background. You choose your virtual background and you will see, as I pull one up behind me, this is what I mean when I say it doesn't like me. My whole body disappears. I have tried a bunch of different things. It does not like me. Some people it works great for. You will notice it says a solid color background is required. I have stood against the flat wall. I have tried different backgrounds behind me. I actually do have a green screen in my house. So I did try an actual green screen. I don't have an answer for why it works for some people and why it doesn't. I know lighting has something to do with it and the background behind you has something to do with it. Robert just suggested take off that green screen option. If you go to do that, it tells you my computer doesn't meet the requirements without a green screen. So unfortunately, there is a checkbox there, but it doesn't work for me. 2 questions. Is there any way for us to get the certificates for attending this meeting? So I am not able to give, if you're Pennsylvania, I am unable to give Act 48 credits for these sessions because they are only a half hour and Pennsylvania requires a minimum of an hour along with feedback assignments. If you just need some kind of proof for an administrator that you came, I would be happy if you email me. I could send you an email back that just says, thank you for attending. The session was a half hour on May 1st. So like I can give you proof that you're here, Andrea, but I can't give you continuing ed credits. Jen just said, can students write on the whiteboard or only the presenter? So only the presenter can write on the whiteboard, but you can have a student share a whiteboard. And your co-host, I believe, can also write on the whiteboard, but not the participants themselves. Okay, continuing to scroll down. Family without access to the computer, they're trying to gain it through their phone. So yes, if they're trying to get on through their phone, Zoom does give an option that's a phone number. They wouldn't be able to see the screen. They wouldn't be able to see the videos of their classmates, but they would be able to hear and talk. That is actually one other feature that I did not show you is the different views. So I'm going to pull my screen back up again. You can view it sort of the way you're viewing the Google Meet call right now, where you are. So right now in the Meet, obviously it's just me. When you have more people in here, there's an option on the side, and you can choose either the grid, which is what you normally see screenshots of, or you can choose to do it the way that we currently have, where your pictures are on the side and the center is the screen share. They can't use a cell phone camera. Yes, Andrea, if they have a cell phone that is a smartphone, they can actually download the Zoom app. So yes, when you were saying the phone, I was honestly thinking landline. I don't know why I was thinking that. But yes, if they have a cell phone, they can access the call and see everything on their phone screen. What would the code for Zoom be? So when you go here to the copy invitation, Oh, it just copied it, of course. Show meeting invitation. You will see here it says to join. There's an option to join by phone, or they can just copy this link and put it in their phone's browser. That link would automatically open it in the app. So if they have the Zoom app downloaded and they click that link, it will open in the Zoom call. So the family trying to get on through Zoom on their phone is saying they need a code. So the code would be this last part of your link. So the Zoom link right here, and then the J stands for join. So that number after it, this right here would be the code. Yeah, so when you say, can I schedule ongoing Zoom meetings? Yes, you can pre-schedule your Zoom meetings. You could also set the Zoom meetings to repeat. So like, for example, if you were using it for an office hours for your students every day at 10 a.m., you can set it to repeat every day at 10 a.m. I will stay on for anyone that has any questions. I thank you all for attending today's webinar on using Zoom in your classroom. We appreciate your time, and as it was mentioned, if you haven't already, please leave your email address in the chat box. This way we can send you resources, and when we schedule upcoming webinars, we can send you the future sessions so you know what's coming. If you have anything that you would like us to do a webinar on, please feel free to make suggestions as well, because we are going to be doing this for the foreseeable future, and I would love to get some new ideas based on what teachers actually need for their classrooms.
Hi, I don't see where the chat button is.
Okay, so if you go up to the top of your Google Meet, you should see there's like a little silhouette of a user, and then there's a little chat box right next to it. If you click on the chat box, it'll open up the chat. Do you see it?
No.
Here, I'm going to pull my screen into my screen. It right here at the top.
Not showing. Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So someone just asked if students can use the chat feature. Yes, so in Zoom, just like in our current Google Meet, there is a chat option, and it is students can chat with the entire class, or they can actually send private messages. There is a bit of like a pull down menu, and if you change the word everyone to a specific person, it would send the message to that specific person only. The thing I would recommend is just maybe not even point that out to your students unless you want them to talk privately.